At the Milimani law courts, and our reporter Wilson Buru is there and joins us on phone. Good afternoon, Wilson.
Good afternoon, Najma. How are you doing?
Fine, thank you. Maybe if you could tell us the ruling.
The judge, Justice Enoch Cherono, has just issued the ruling, and Stephen Ntutu, the senator, they have just been released on a 500,000 shillings personal bond.
Wilson?
Najma?
Yes, and what are some of the political implications? Because court leaders turned up in large numbers, including court leader Raila Odinga. Who else was there?
There were a couple of leaders here. One of them was the chair senator. The chair senator was here, and Ababu Namwamba was also here. But we do not want to speculate as to what their intentions exactly, what exactly the intentions were being in court today, apart from probably just showing their solidarity with those who are being accused. But then again, it was a packed courtroom. The mood was a bit calm. There was no sign of tension. So the proceedings just went on fine until the judge issued the ruling. There was a bit of an interesting discussion earlier on, because the director of public prosecution came in personally and said that he does not oppose the issuance of bail or bond to the accused person. And the reasons he gave were because of the ongoing chaos in Narok town at the moment. So that elicited a bit of a discussion because he issued a couple of directives where he said that the condition for the issuance of the bail, one of the conditions was that they should not engage in any demonstrations and ensure that they keep peace in that county. And that led to the judge giving a directive where people went on recess for about 20 minutes before he came back and issued his ruling.
Wilson, you spoke of tension earlier, that there was no tension, but there were reports that the case was moved to different courtrooms earlier on. Why was that?
Pardon?
There was a report that the case was moved to different courtrooms. Why was that?
There have been hundreds of people here in Najma. The courtroom was packed and they had to be moved because they could not fit. Everybody could not fit in one courtroom. So this just prompted the officials to move them to a bigger courtroom, and even that courtroom was still packed. I got this information from one of the security guards who said that some of the spectators had come in and insisted on going in with their rungus and machetes, but they refused because that was going to be, of course, a security risk. That was not going to be allowed.
And maybe winding up, Wilson, was there any mention of the people who died in Monday's chaos?
One of the issues that the defense has brought up is that the prosecution is trying to connect the death of the two people who died in Narok to the people who have been accused. But the defense says that those are two very different cases because the investigations are still ongoing. So there is no way right now to connect the death of those two people to the senator and his accomplices. But then again, it was a very interesting case, Najma.
Yes. Now, thank you very much. Wilson?
All right, thank you very much, Najma.
Thank you very much. Wilson Mburu there, and he will be giving us the rest of our stories, that story in our subsequent bulletin. Now, even as the leaders were arraigned in court, tension was very high in Narok town. Businesses were this morning paralyzed as protesting residents blocked roads demanding the release of their leaders. Kamcha Menza will be bringing us that story very shortly. Kamcha Menza is on the ground and she will be giving the details of that story. Now moving on to another one now, Elijah Kanchori Mumesi will be the Orange Democratic Movement Party's flag bearer in the Kajiado Central by-election slated for March 16th, 2015. Memusi will now face off with Patrick Tutui of the newly formed Jubilee Alliance Party in a by-election which is being touted by both CORD and the Jubilee Alliance as a litmus test for 2017 general elections.
It was a celebratory mood for supporters of Elijah Kanchori Memusi when he was declared winner of the ODM primaries for Kajiado Central by-election at the Maasai Technical Training Institute in Kajiado Town. After the final tally, Memusi trounced his 4 competitors by a wide margin. Memusi garnered 9,523 votes. His closest challenger, Olorasha Paita, got a paltry 1,497 votes. Simon Peter Olenkeri scored 566 votes, Paul Kaika 367 votes, with Dr. Naomi Kipuri coming at the tail end with 288 votes. Only 12,241 votes were cast during the ODM primaries. The constituency has almost 40,000 registered voters.
And we are warning our worthy rivals, Jubilee. If you think you are going to misuse state resources to attempt to intimidate, to hoodwink the people of Kajiado, we say we will match you blow for blow, pound for pound, shilling for shilling, dollar for dollar, power for power. We are ready to match you.
Jubilee wasijaribu njia yoyote kufanya rigging kwa hii Kajiado Central. Kwa sababu tumechukua Kajiado Central kama kipimo ya 2017. Tunataka kuonyesha Jubilee ya kwamba serikali ya 2017 itakuwa serikali ya ODM na CORD.
4 other aspirants who participated in the polls, plus their agents, never appeared at the tallying center. On Wednesday afternoon, when the polling was still ongoing, Simon Olenkeri, Olorasha Paita and Paul Kaika had threatened to pull out of the exercise, claiming the nominations had been flawed. This was after a person was nabbed with 5 unmarked ballot papers at Il Basil polling station, visited the polling center and said the incident was minor.
We believe that this is a minor incident of an attempt to defraud the electoral process, which was intercepted in good time. The culprit is now in police custody. We urge the police to make sure that upon full investigations, the law takes its course.
Memusi urged his competitors to support him to clinch the seat, which became vacant after immediate former MP Josephine Kaiseri was appointed to the cabinet. Last week, Memusi participated in the Jubilee Alliance Party primaries and lost to businessman Patrick Tutui. Tutui garnered 10,502 votes against Memusi's 8,848 votes. Memusi quickly ditched Jubilee Alliance Party for ODM. Tutui will be flying the JAP flag and has already been presented with the party's nomination certificate. He will now face off with Elijah Memusi in a mouth-watering grand finale slated for March. Patrick Amimo, KTN.
We go back to Narok County, and even as the leaders were arraigned in court, tension was high in Narok town. Businesses were this morning paralyzed as protesting residents blocked roads demanding the release of their leaders. Kamche Menza is on the ground and she tells us what exactly is happening and how the mood is like. Kamche.
Right now, I'm in Narok town along the Narok-Bomet highway, standing at a spot that earlier on this morning hell broke loose as residents grouped themselves and burnt tires and placed stones on the road, blocking the passage of vehicles. Some of the areas that the residents earlier this morning blocked include Katakala, Ewasonyiro, Ntulele, Narok town, Loita, among other areas along the road. And police actually had a difficult time because the residents were the residents were spreading fast in burning the tires and blocking the road, and they had to lobby tear gas at least to disperse the residents. For now, at least what you can see behind me is that the road has been opened and at least we can see vehicles are passing, and that we cannot say that tension is not high as yet, because behind me actually you can see that the police vehicle is still standing by, keeping vigil of the residents here. Residents so far have said that they are carrying on with their peaceful demonstration. They will not throw stones at anyone, but what they will do is that the demonstration will continue until their leaders are released. So far, 2 people have been confirmed to have sustained serious injuries as they were participating in the protest along the highway and are currently receiving treatment at Ololulunga District Hospital. That's it for now from here, Narok County, and we'll continue giving you the details of the situation here. My name is Kamche Menza, back to you in the studio, Nairobi.
Thank you very much. I'm also informed that businesses are slowly opening since they closed down in the morning during the melee. Moving on now, a body has been found in River Rabai in Rabai village, Kiambu County. According to the area chief, John Njengai Kenya confirmed that the deceased was allegedly murdered elsewhere before his body was dumped in the river. Police believe that the man was 35 years old and have asked residents to be vigilant to ensure their own security. The body has been moved to the Kiambu County mortuary.
Wote wale ambao wamefika mahali hapa hawajamtambua, na kwa hivyo tunaonelea labda ni mtu ambaye ameuawa kutoka sehemu nyingine na akuja kutupwa hapa mtoni.
Now, stakeholders allied to the Kenya Private Schools Association now want the government to abolish national examination fees in private schools as well. The directors say that failure to do so would amount to discriminating against pupils and students from private schools. Trans Nzoia County Branch Chairman Joseph Keter said that the ruling Jubilee administration had promised to scrap this examination registration fees in its harmonized manifestation in which it unveiled the run-up to the March 2013 general elections.
Let the government abolish. They have already abolished in public schools. We also want them to abolish in private schools, because these directors you see here are taxpayers. They pay money to the government, and that is the money which is now being used to register the ones in public. So we want our fair share.
The fact that these children who have come from private schools tried their best to get the best marks should not be looked at as if they are coming from very rich backgrounds. No, it's just parents who have been poor and they are trying to give their best for their children. So the government should actually be able to rethink that concept. This group here have actually put across these resolutions as they await the National Office resolution on the subject, which will be addressed by our seniors.
We have established that 80% of the chances in national schools were actually taken by the endowed public schools. What we are saying is that even if the government is talking about equity, the equity should actually look into the child and not the school.
Now, Senate Minority Leader Moses Wetangula says CORD will come up with a suitable formula of bringing together all affiliate parties of the coalition in the run-up to the next general election. Wetangula says that the new approach will not necessarily lead to the dissolution of affiliate parties. Here's the second part of his interview with Aaron Ochieng.
We've seen your counterparts in Jubilee. They are forming their own party. Are we going to see CORD going into 2017 as one party?
We are looking around for mechanisms in which we will be able to limit inter-CORD partner competition. And that's why since the last elections, we have not in any parliamentary or senatorial by-election fielded a candidate against each other. Right from Bungoma, Makueni, Matungulu, in Msambweni, although it didn't go to the end. Everywhere we have gone in Siaya, right now in Homa Bay, in Kajiado Central. We are practicing what we say, that we will not play into the hands of our opponents by fragmenting ourselves and therefore weakening our strength to give them an opportunity to win. And where we have gone as a team, united, we have won. So it's a pointer to things that will happen in 2017. And what is critical for us as CORD is to have a democratic, free, fair, open, and just mechanism of arriving at a candidate whom even those who will not win will respect the outcome and then stand together.
Is the presidential ambition still alive?
It can never die. It can never die. We are Like I said many times before, the three of us as principals in CORD were presidential candidates in the run-up to the last elections. Two of us subordinated our ambitions to one of us, and we will find ways and means of finding in 2017 who will subordinate to who.
It looks like CORD is a little bit crippled in Parliament in terms of making their legislation pass. Do you think at some point we're going to see a bipartisan approach to several bills so that we might be seeing the country legislations moving ahead?
In the Senate, the bipartisan approach has been more meaningful and achievable than probably in the National Assembly. But I hope, in the process of legislation after elections, there's always the heightened suspicion and tension immediately following elections. But as we reach midterm, things mellow a bit. Then as we start cascading towards the next elections, again, the levels of suspicion start growing and things become more and more difficult to have a bipartisan approach. I hope that this year, being the midterm year, is the year where we can achieve most bipartisan approach legislations. And since the year has just started and we are resuming the House sittings on 10th of next month, let's wait and see how it goes. As the leadership from CORD, we will always go along and support any legislation that is good for the country, and we'll oppose any legislation that is draconian and unhelpful to the country. And we may talk of the tyranny of numbers. We certainly, without any fear of contradiction, boast of tyranny of brains in our side. And where the things go the way they did, like in the security bill, our brains will go to court like we have done, and we will definitely have our day there.
All right, thank you so much, Senator.
Thank you.
All right.
Moving to matters business now, the Nairobi Securities Exchange is seeking to set up an oversight committee to govern operations of the newly licensed derivatives market. In an ad in today's dailies, the board sought applications for interested parties to join the oversight committee. The team will be an independent committee of the NSE that will essentially advise on risks, strategic issues and oversight roles relating to the derivatives market and the NSE clearinghouse. Now, the derivatives market is seen as a step towards deepening the capital markets by allowing listings of instruments like future contracts and options. It is expected to offer a wide range of investment options while allowing the investors to manage risks associated with changing currency and interest rates. Mobile network service provider Safaricom has made a move to capture a bigger slice of the country's fixed line market segment, traditionally dominated by Orange Kenya, in a move that is likely to spark a price war in the aggressively competitive telecommunication industry. Safaricom has embarked on a marketing campaign that compares its offering with that of its competitors. Safaricom has traditionally offered fixed line services through its corporate arm, Safaricom Business. Now, the key focus has been on corporate organizations and recently small and middle-sized businesses. The company has, however, begun an aggressive strategy to capture a bigger share of the opportunities from the private and public sector across the country. Safaricom currently charges a 4 shilling flat rate to make calls, while Telkom Kenya charges 6 shillings for on-net calls and 12 shillings for calls to other networks on the fixed line. Latest data from the Communications Authority shows the number of fixed lines continue to shrink, with the number of subscribers in the last quarter standing at 233,000, down from 206,129 lines in the previous quarter. In particular, fixed terrestrial lines declined by 7.2% and stood at 52,053. Well, we'll now take a short break, but I will be back with more news. Welcome back. To matters beyond our borders now, Nigeria goes to the polls on February 14th, a date many in the northern state of Kaduna have good reason to fear. During the previous poll of 2011, the region was plunged into inter-religious violence. Here's more on that story.
Phillips Village was on the front line during Nigeria's post-election violence of 2011. Here, Christians and Muslims clashed over the poll result with brutal consequences. 1,000 people lost their lives in the region and thousands more were displaced.
From here upward is for the Christians, and from here was mainly the Muslims that were settling here. So that, as you can see, some of the houses of the Christians were also affected, and that of the Muslim also affected. So it was the violence that brought all these destructions.
In Nigeria's Kaduna state, the two communities have always lived side by side, but elections have a habit of stoking rivalries. Musa is a Muslim, and 4 years ago his life was turned upside down.
They burned my house. Two boys from my junior sister, they killed them. They killed my father. They killed my junior brothers, 3. And they wound me. Even still up to now, look at the wounded. It is a bullet inside here, still up to now.
The market in the town of Kafanchan in central Nigeria was destroyed 4 years ago. It's since come back to life, but as Nigeria goes to the polls again on February 14th, many fear for the worst.
We are pleading to the government that enough security should be on the ground for the safety of with the electorates, so that whatsoever is the outcome of the election, people can still go about their businesses.
Beyond religious differences, unemployment and poverty serve only to exacerbate divisions. In the state capital, Kaduna, efforts are being made to heal the wounds of old.
We have what we call the community peace observers, and they are there to watch out for conflict indicators. And once they notice conflict indicators, they will call this center, and our center, in collaboration with agencies, both security agencies and other related bodies, they will intervene.
Just as in 2011, this year's election will see President Goodluck Jonathan, a Christian, face his main rival, Muhammadu Buhari, a Muslim. Nigerians here of all faiths will be praying the political fight doesn't again spill over into open conflict.
To sports now, Kenya is officially among over 100 countries who are part of the National Anti-Doping Agency Organization NADO. This is after the gazettement of the National Anti-Doping Agency of Kenya, ADAC. The new body is getting reinforcement from China and the Norway Anti-Doping Agency's officials who are currently in the country for an informative seminar.
Attention has in recent days shifted from the old golden days of Kenya's sports prowess to the negative global attention prompted by an increase in the number of failed drug tests among Kenyan athletes. An anti-doping task force that was formed last year conducted a series of investigations that revealed an urgent need for quick solutions to save the country's sports reputation. This room will, for the next 3 days, host a very crucial discussion that is close to many Kenyans and different stakeholders, including the Kenyan government, the China Anti-Doping Agency, as well as the Norway Anti-Doping Agency, will be sitting to forge the way forward to curb the doping menace in the country.
By last year, if anything happened, there was nobody to deal with anti-doping. And that has been the landscape, shockingly, for the last 50 years. There has not been a body to deal with doping issues in Kenya.
Certainly not saying that that we know all the answers, that we have all the answers to how to set it up, because this is a Kenyan institution and it must address the Kenyan issues in the Kenyan way.
With a new kid on block, the newly formed body that will be chaired by former Sports Permanent Secretary James Waweru will be counting on guidance from the experienced China Anti-Doping Agency and the Norway Anti-Doping Agency.
China is as big as it comes. And also they have a lot of experience because China had, remember, they had similar doping problems in the early years. So they have a lot of experience. They also have a lot of resources, which we need in terms of just establishing ourselves properly.
Our role as Anti-Doping Norway is to give guidance and assistance in how to set up and run a robust anti-doping program for Kenya.
At the end of the 3-day meeting, a complete set of rules and guidelines that will govern the Kenya body will be put in place, with the body also expected to take up the responsibility to educate and punish offenders, with all federations expected to comply.
Do as a government is always but punish and also educate. Which one is heavier, I think, will depend the advice you'll get from WADA and from Chinada and others who have the experience. But what is good is if you cheat, it is good that you get caught so that menace is dealt with.
Well, that's it on NewsDesk this afternoon, but make sure you join us in our subsequent bulletins where we'll be telling you how the Narok situation is unfolding. My name is Najma Ismail. Enjoy the rest of your afternoon.
This is KTN. Welcome home.